Good evening. A Toronto police officer was rushed to hospital this afternoon after an incident involving a person in crisis and some broken glass.
The officer's injuries are described as serious. They were taken into surgery. The person in crisis was arrested. CTV's Mike Walker is live at the scene tonight. And Mike, police are saying the officer's injuries were not as a result of the interaction.
Nathan, Toronto police tell us that the officer was injured by broken glass on a door. Now, the circumstances that led to the officer's injuries are not clear at this time, but here's what we do know. Toronto police were called to a home on Huron Street just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. This is near Spadina in DuPont for a person in crisis. The Toronto Police Association tells us that the officer was a member of the Mobile Crisis Intervention Team, and there was an interaction, and the officer was injury sustaining serious injuries to his arm. Again, Toronto police tell us the officer suffered those injuries by broken glass on a door. The person in crisis, they say, was arrested for assaulting the officer. However, they say that woman did not cause the officer's injuries. Now, forensic officers have been on scene for most of the afternoon. They have been focusing their investigation at the rear of the home, and they are just clearing the scene now. Again, the officer suffered serious injuries, was rushed to hospital, and underwent surgery this afternoon. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. To Etobicoke next, where the province's Special Investigations Unit is now examining the death of a 21-year-old man. That
man fell from the balcony of a high-rise this morning while police from York Region were on scene executing a search warrant. CTV's John Musselman is live tonight with the latest. John.
Well, how and why this happened, Michelle, will be part of the investigation with the province's Special Investigations Unit. What we do know is this man fell nearly 7 stories.
York Regional Police spent the day gathering forensic evidence inside an 11th floor unit at this condo tower. It's located across the street from Sherway Gardens Mall. York Regional Police were in Etobicoke around 5 a.m. executing a search warrant at a unit. Residents in the building say the victim fell from the 11th floor balcony and he landed on a terrace on the 4th floor.
Early in the morning, I heard just a thump or some sort of a crash, some sort of a noise I couldn't quite recognize. I didn't really think much of it at the time, but I did hear some neighbors' dogs barking for a bit.
Why or how he fell from the balcony has not been released by investigators. It happened on the east side of the building. According to the province's Special Investigations Unit, officers attempted to communicate with a man on an upper floor shortly after the man fell from a balcony to a 4th floor patio. The man was transported to hospital where he was pronounced dead. At least 2 other residents who did not want to be identified say they heard a loud bang or thud. They call the incident sad and unsettling.
It's disturbing, especially being in a unit with someone that maybe we don't know what this person, and for them to do a search warrant. I mean, there's a reason for a search warrant. It makes you wonder, how safe you are in such an area.
You don't feel so much safe, right? Because it's supposed to be a very safe area, but this happened, I don't know. It's kind of scary.
We don't know why York Regional Police were executing a search warrant or what the investigation was about. Toronto Police would have been notified in advance that York Regional Police were going into the Etobicoke building this morning. The province's Special Investigations Unit has not released the name of the man who died. The provincial agency will try to determine how and why this happened.
And as they do that work, they're also appealing to the public. Anyone who has information or may have witnessed what happened here is asked to call them and their investigators. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. Still ahead, the city is cracking down on drivers who block the box. Find out how much it could cost if you don't clear the intersection in time.
But first, let's talk about this sizzling September. The unseasonable heat is pushing into an all-new week. The sunshine very much sticking around. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. And what conditions? Wow, Jess.
It really is quite beautiful. As you kind of make your way through the middle of September, you're thinking, okay, it's sweater weather, but not so much anymore. We're seeing so much heat as this ridge in the jet stream really has settled in, and it's quite beautiful as we step in towards the week ahead, if you like the warmer fall weather. Bit of an easterly wind right now, becomes northeast northeasterly overnight, but remains light right throughout. Temperature-wise, we're in the upper 20s, feeling into the low 30s still at this hour, and it's a warm one as we head in towards the end of our day. Through the islands, it's a little cooler, a bit more of a breeze, but not by much. The humidex still very much a factor. And then as we head in towards this evening, we'll sit around 18 degrees, the seasonal norm about 10 or 11, so we're not losing any of that warmth. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. Right now, it's back over to Michelle and Nathan.
Thanks, Jess. A warning for drivers tonight. Getting caught blocking an intersection will now cost you a lot more than it did.
Steeper fines just one way the city hopes to convince motorists not to block the box and keep traffic moving. CTV's Natalie Johnson is live tonight with more. Natalie.
Well, Nathan, the city is hoping that a $450 fine is enough to deter drivers from trying to squeeze through an intersection that they can't actually clear. And officials are hoping that eventually more traffic cameras could help them issue those fines.
Tying up traffic.
It definitely does get a little crazy, especially at this intersection.
And cutting off crosswalks.
It is frustrating.
Blocking the box might be one of Toronto's most hated holdups on the road.
The north-south traffic is not going anywhere, east-west traffic is not getting anywhere, and the entire intersection, all the traffic come to a complete standstill. And it's infuriating.
City officials today putting drivers on notice, get stuck in the intersection and prepare to pay more.
Increasing these fines is going to send a clear message to drivers. You cannot clog our roads and risk the safety of our road users just to get a few feet ahead.
The city is dramatically hiking the fine for driving into an intersection there is no reasonable prospect of clearing. From $90 up to a whopping $450, $500 in a community safety zone.
People shouldn't be blocking the intersections anyways.
The challenge is whether officers are actually there to hand out the tickets. They can't be everywhere all the time. The city is now turning to the province for permission to install automated enforcement cameras that would specifically catch drivers blocking the box.
What it'll do is means we can have less traffic officers doing exactly what the marshals are doing out this morning, because people will know, they'll get the message. They'll receive that letter in the mail that says on this date and time at this location, and by the way, much like a speed camera, that's your car.
In the meantime, officers will be writing up $450 fines for drivers who risk the bad behavior and get caught.
If it helps the traffic situation, then I guess it's a good thing.
It's kind of hard to know when the traffic's going to stop, especially if there's light change or there's bigger vehicles like a truck in front of it, which I've seen happen all the time.
The city says simply don't take the chance, don't block the box, or face the fine.
And there is no clear timeline at this point as to when we might see those traffic cameras that are specific to blocking the box. In addition to permission from the province, the city would also need to procure the technology. Reporting live downtown, I'm Natalie Johnson. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. OPP are investigating a fatal crash involving a motorcycle on the 403. Emergency crews were called to the highway near Waterdown Road in Burlington around 9:45 a.m. Life-saving measures were performed, but the man was eventually pronounced dead at the scene. The cause of the crash remains under investigation.
Provincial police are also investigating a fatal two-vehicle crash that occurred last night north of Cobourg. The crash happened around 9:20 on County Road 28 north of Donaldson Road. Police say the driver of one of the vehicles, a 55-year-old man from Curve Lake, was pronounced dead there at the scene. The two people in the other vehicle were taken to a local hospital. One was later airlifted to Toronto with serious but non-life-threatening injuries.
And police in Peterborough continue to investigate after a crash early Saturday morning that claimed the life of a 17-year-old. Police say around 3 a.m. they received a 911 call from the area of North Monaghan Parkway and Dobbin Road about a pedestrian being struck. Video from the scene shows a box truck at the side of the road. Police say the driver of the vehicle involved remained at the scene and provided first aid until first responders arrived. The 17-year-old victim was taken to hospital but later died of his injuries.
Two dogs were rescued from a house fire late this morning in North York. This happened at a home on Kemp Square in the Black Creek and Lawrence area around the noon hour. Firefighters say when they arrived, they encountered heavy smoke and flames coming from a fire in the living room of the house. Two dogs were saved from the home and given oxygen. They've been turned over to Toronto Animal Services for further care.
Ontario's Financial Accountability Office is now looking into the Ford government's decision to speed up the expansion of alcohol sales in the province.
The move involved a substantial payment to the beer store. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has more.
As Ontarians reach into their convenience store case for a cold brew, the province's financial accountability officer is diving into the numbers behind the deal that made it happen more than a year ahead of schedule. The report coming at the request of the Liberal finance critic.
We've estimated it to be about $1 billion, and the government is saying it will be much less, and we think that the public has the right to know what this accelerating this deal will really cost the taxpayers of Ontario.
Taxpayers are on the hook for $225 million to stabilize the beer store through this transition. There are questions about other payments, foregone revenue. Bowman hopes to get to the bottom of the government's reasoning, too.
Why are you doing this when you're doing it, when the agreement would come to an end in a year?
The FAO expects to share what it's found early in the new year, but that depends on government cooperation. A spokesperson for the finance minister says they look forward to that report, that the government's confident the LCBO's revenues will continue to grow as it becomes the wholesaler of booze for retail, bars, and restaurants.
We have a healthcare system's on the verge of collapse. We have an education system that's underfunded. We have a housing crisis. The government should be spending precious public dollars on the real needs of Ontarians.
Speaking in Windsor, the Premier called this a good deal, then flipped to attacking Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie.
She doesn't believe in putting beer and wine in a corner store, and she just wants to add to the cost of a bottle of beer.
A claim Crombie and her party have called a desperate lie.
A Liberal government opened up alcohol sales, so we're not against the idea.
CTV political analyst Scott Reid thinks what the FAO may say about motivation matters.
He wanted the refrigerators filled when people were going to the polls in a few months.
While the Premier shut down the possibility of an election this year, Reid says count on a provincial vote before a nationwide one.
He doesn't want to deal with the Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre. He knows that Canadians are very comfortable in Ontario voting one way provincially, one way federally.
An equation Doug Ford wants to stay on the right side of. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
To Brampton next, where a derelict property connected to a city councillor in that city is set to be demolished.
As CTV's John Woodward reports, that could bring an end to a standoff between the councillor and the city's own bylaw enforcement team.
This house on Brampton's Queen Street is boarded up. Its gate chained closed, barrels sitting out front.
It's been an eyesore for several years now.
But neighbors say that's not the worst of it. City records have shown indications of squatters and rats. An investigation by CTV News in the spring showed repeated attempts by city staff to get the property cleaned up. One issue, it's owned by a numbered company. One of the two directors is Brampton City Councillor Gurpartap Singh Tour. Tour faced 29 fines as of May, adding up to $12,500. In records obtained by CTV News, officers pleaded with him, writing, "Gurpartap, what is it going to take to get you to bring your property into compliance? Do you not have respect for the city and its bylaws?" Tour's response, "How about you stop harassing me at work? Let's start there." That officer filed an integrity commissioner complaint. He was then removed from the file. A supervisor visited in June and wrote 4 more tickets, though the city of Brampton redacted how much those fines are worth.
None, that motion carries. Thank you once again.
Tour chaired a recent Brampton City Council meeting. That's where we caught up with him.
Councillor Tour, John Woodward from CTV. Councillor Tour, we're hoping to talk to you about your property.
After the council meeting?
We've been waiting here for some time and we've been emailing you for a while. We're hoping to talk to you now.
Tour said he'd deal with us after the council meeting, but didn't show. That was more than a week ago, with no response, despite emails and texts. He's previously denied he used his council position to put himself out of the reach of property standards. The documents show Tour has received a demolition permit. An engineer's letter says the structure is not stable. It's unclear when it will be demolished. A sign outside the property says it could be part of a new development.
The day that I see the machines here knocking this down, we're going to be very happy people.
Tour has said he paid the previous fines, but as for the new ones, we just don't know, and the city of Brampton isn't sharing either. John Woodward, CTV News.
MPs went back to work today with a very different dynamic on Parliament Hill. The Liberals no longer have unconditional support from the NDP, and the Conservatives are itching to introduce a non-confidence vote. CTV's senior political correspondent Mike Couture has the details.
Without a guaranteed partner in Parliament, the Liberals will have to tread carefully in order to not trigger an election. And if the first day is any indication, it's going to be a rough road ahead for this government.
Oral questions.
After a 12-week break, Pierre Poilievre picked up right where he left off in his attacks on the Trudeau government.
Instead of a reckless plan to hike the tax to 61 cents a litre, why not allow Canadians to vote to axe the tax?
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau fired back, vigorously defending the Liberal plan.
Here's the news flash for the Conservative leader. Climate change costs money, and what would cost the most money to Canadians at all is his do-nothing climate plan.
The NDP is also taking heat after Jagmeet Singh said he's working on his own plan that wouldn't include a consumer carbon price, which has drawn criticism from Liberals.
Who will stick up for Gen Zs? Who will stick up for millennials? Who will stick up for the planet? The Liberal government? The Liberal Party will? Because clearly Jagmeet Singh will not.
Now, this sitting of Parliament will be a lot more tense than we've seen in the last 2.5 years. After the NDP tore up the supply and confidence agreement with the Liberals, it's clear they're no longer political partners.
Justin Trudeau teamed up with Pierre Poilievre to shut down the plan that would have lowered the price of groceries. Instead, they voted to keep the price of groceries high and protect the corporate grocery stores.
Despite that, Singh and the NDP aren't looking to take the government down yet. New Democrats say they will look at each confidence motion before the House before deciding whether or not to support the Liberal government, which leaves the Bloc Québécois.
I am not in the business of keeping this government in place. I am as hurried and impatient as anybody to go into election. Our numbers seem to be pretty good.
Still, Blanchet is considering leveraging the opportunity to benefit Quebec. But that doesn't change the fact that an election is more likely to happen than it was 12 weeks ago. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
The Liberals lost a key party stronghold in Toronto during a June by-election, and they will be looking to avoid that happening again tonight, but this time in Montreal. A loss in the riding of La Salle-Aymar-Verdun this evening could spark renewed calls for change within the party. It looks like a three-way race between the Liberals, New Democrats, and Bloc Québécois. In Winnipeg, the NDP is hoping to hold on to their seat in Elmwood-Transcona, but polls indicate it is a close contest against the Conservatives. Voting continues in both by-elections until 9:30 our time.
The federal inquiry into foreign interference resumed in Ottawa, and we learned the names of Canadian parliamentarians suspected of helping foreign entities meddle in our elections will not be made public.
The allegations are based on classified information, which means that the Commission can neither make them public, nor even disclose them to the persons who might be the subject of these allegations. The Commission will therefore be incapable of affording these people a meaningful opportunity to defend themselves.
But Marie-Josie Hogue says the Commission plans to address the allegations and make recommendations in the classified version of its final report. It's due by the end of the year. This past May, an interim report from Hogue said foreign meddling by China did not affect the overall results of the past two federal elections. The report followed revelations from a parliamentary committee that said some Canadian federal politicians were semi-witting or witting participants in efforts to interfere in this country's politics.
Also in the nation's capital, a former Canadian military official has been found not guilty of sexual assault. Hayden Edmondson was also acquitted on a charge of committing an indecent act. He was the head of the military's personnel in 2021 when he was accused of assaulting another member of the Navy during a 1991 deployment. Edmondson pleaded not guilty and testified he never had sexual contact with the complainant. In his ruling, the judge said there were concerns about her memory of what happened and also a lack of evidence to corroborate her account. The retired Vice Admiral declined to comment today on whether he is considering legal action against the government or the military.
In the Middle East, Palestinian officials say Israeli airstrikes killed 16 people today. At least 10 people were killed in a strike in the Nuseirat refugee camp in central Gaza. 13 others were injured. Civil defense reported another strike on a home in Gaza City killed 6 people. Israel says it only targets militants and accuses Hamas and other armed groups of operating in residential areas.
In northern Israel, firefighters worked to extinguish a blaze today following an attack from inside Lebanon. The military says a suspicious aerial target fell in an open area in the upper Galilee area. There were no reported injuries. Hezbollah began firing rockets and drones after the outbreak of the war in Gaza. 23 soldiers and 26 civilians have been killed in northern Israel by strikes from Lebanon. Over 500 people have been killed in Lebanon by Israeli strikes, including more than 100 civilians.
The FBI is investigating what appears to be a second attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. This morning, a suspected gunman with a long criminal record was charged with serious gun crimes. CTV's Joy Malbin has the details.
Driver, walk straight back!
This is the moment police arrested the suspected gunman. 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Routh was charged with federal gun crimes, holding charges to keep him in custody while they investigate his motivation. Court documents show Routh was on Donald Trump's golf course in West Palm Beach for 12 hours. He has prior criminal convictions involving weapons. On Sunday, a Secret Service agent spotted the barrel of an assault-style rifle peeking out of the bushes just yards from where the former president was golfing. The agent fired, sending the suspected gunman running, leaving behind an AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks with ceramic tiles for a bulletproof vest, and a GoPro.
The Secret Service are laser focused on today. Is this guy part of a conspiracy? Is he a lone gunman? If he's a lone gunman, President Trump is that much safer because we have him. But if he's part of a conspiracy, then this whole thing really takes on a very ominous tone.
2 years ago, Routh, who once supported Trump, became vocal about the war in Ukraine, wanting to join the fight.
We are sitting on the fence as far as whether good or evil is going to win.
After the last attempt on Trump's life where a bullet grazed his ear, Trump called for political unity. Now he's blaming Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for the apparent assassination attempt, posting, "Because of this communist left rhetoric, the bullets are flying and it will only get worse." Both Harris and the president condemned the violence, directing Congress to respond to these heightened threats.
I think the Congress should respond to their needs if they, in fact, need more services.
Prosecutors want Routh to remain behind bars, calling him a flight risk and a danger. He will be back in court Monday and could face additional charges. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
In Texas, a massive pipeline fire has forced the evacuation of a suburban Houston neighborhood. The pipeline is carrying natural gas liquids, and officials say it must burn itself out. The flow has been shut off, but it could take until tomorrow for the residual material to burn off. At least a couple of homes appear to have caught fire as crews work to keep the flames from spreading. It is not clear yet what started the blaze.
Coming up, Leafs and legends hit the links. We catch up with stars of the blue and white as they take their talents to the greens, all for a good cause.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, it's something many of us get every day. Scam texts and emails. A viewer just got one saying he won a $30 reward, but it was a scam trying to get into his bank account. I'll have what you need to know. That's just ahead.
And after a warm weekend, we have more heat on the way as we step throughout the week with this ridge in the jet stream not going anywhere as we step in towards really the middle of September. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast and show you when slightly cooler weather is on the way. And stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Chances are it's happened to you. You get a text or email that says you have a package to pick up, a free gift, or a refund from Revenue Canada.
They're all fake messages from scammers designed to get your personal information or into your bank account. Pat Foran has the story on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. A man got a text from a store saying he was a good customer and he was being rewarded with a $30 gift. He just needed to sign in and give his banking details. It was a scam, and experts say there are many of them to watch out for.
The banking page was identical to my bank.
Mark Martin of Simcoe shops at Giant Tiger, so he wasn't too surprised when he got a text from the store. It was an offer of a $30 reward for being a good customer.
And I clicked on the link, and it took me to a page that said it was a customer appreciation reward they were going to give people.
Martin says the money was to come as an e-transfer, but he became concerned when the link took him to a website that asked for his banking information.
When they get down to asking for your personal information and banking information, there's the red flag right there.
Giant Tiger told CTV News there are fraudulent scams impersonating trusted retail brands. The message this customer received is not from Giant Tiger. Legitimate promotions, contests, and offers from Giant Tiger will always be cross-posted to our website.
There's an awful lot of very strange text messages coming in as well, which are also tied to scam activity.
Cybersecurity experts say criminals are flooding your inbox with scam texts, pretending to be with your bank, Canada Post, the 407 toll highway, and Revenue Canada claiming you're owed money. Scammers are hoping you'll enter your personal information or banking details. They may hack your account right away or wait and use the information to steal your identity.
If you get an email for a deal that seems impossible or a giveaway that seems too good to be true, it almost definitely is. And bad guys are sitting behind it, trying to do something nefarious.
To protect yourself, don't click on unsolicited links. Guard your information carefully. Don't enter contests that ask for your information. Don't store passwords in your web browser, and use two-factor authentication when possible. Martin is glad he didn't get caught in a scam and wanted to warn others.
If you're not expecting it, just dump it and block it. It's not worth it. They're going to take all of your money.
And criminals are also using QR codes to hack into your phone. You might get a text that looks like an offer from a legitimate business, but when you take a photo of the code, it takes you to a malicious website to steal your information. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, the midsummer temperatures continue even during the middle of the summer. I don't remember it being this good for such a long stretch.
Honestly, so last week, you might remember, every day Jess was talking about sun, 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 sun the whole week. Now we're into another week, and for the most part, with the exception of maybe a day in there, it's sun and heat.
This trend really is holding firm right through to almost the end of the month. There is the chance of some cloud cover midweek, and that comes ahead of a system sitting south of the border, potentially bringing some rain in towards the Niagara region, towards Hamilton. We'll see if it touches the GTA, but for the most part, to be honest, the next week ahead is beautiful. So if you like the warmer transition into the fall season, which officially begins this weekend, this week ahead is for you. And it really was beautiful from start to finish throughout the day today. A little fog early on this morning, but it kind of looked pretty cool out there as we're seeing that transition between, the heat escaping from the surface and kind of running into that cooler air and the clouds kind of forming on the ground, creating a little bit of fog out there. But my goodness, a beautiful start to the day. And temperature-wise, quite mild early on this morning, despite it being a little darker now that the sun is rising a little bit later. Temperature-wise, it's hot everywhere. This ridge really does reach almost into extreme northern Ontario. Timmins right now, it feels like 33. For us here in the city, it feels like 29. Ottawa feeling like 33. And the heat isn't going anywhere as we head throughout the evening. Even as winds become a little more northerly through the overnight, it doesn't do much to cool things down. We'll sit at 18. Everyone's holding on above seasonal. Into the day tomorrow, another sunny day, another hot and humid day. So if you want to get outside and take advantage of it, I recommend it, but you got to do so safely, right? With hydration, sun protection, and the right kind of gear. Temperature-wise, it doesn't fluctuate much, but we are watching for some cloud cover to move in. Again, that's kind of the leading edge of a system sitting south of the border, set to kind of make its way into parts of southern Ontario. We'll see if we do get any passing showers here, but it likely just falls as cloud cover for us. As we head through the rest of our evening and into the start of the day tomorrow, just again, a whole lot of clear sky. High pressure really does hold firmly. There's no change to that. As we head in towards our Tuesday, we'll see a few light clouds, but the bulk of that cloud cover and the leading edge of that system is going to be as we head in towards our Wednesday. It really does start kind of into the early morning hours. Again, the bulk of this staying in towards Niagara and Hamilton, but we'll see if it touches the GTA. If it does come to fruition, it's very light in nature. The bulk of the system really does stay south of the border. Temperature-wise, we are holding firmly above seasonal. We should be around maybe that 21 to 23 degree range, and we're not really anywhere close to that until the weekend. We're sitting into the mid-20s throughout the week. Those humidex values, low kind of 30s, the upper 20s. It is going to be really sticky out there. The humidity is still very much a factor. Heat stroke, heat exhaustion can still happen, so just plan accordingly. As we head in towards our Friday, we are looking at lots of sunshine. The fall season. The fall equinox begins just after noon on Sunday. So if you're excited for the fall season, it does officially begin later on this week, but it really doesn't do much to cool things down. The coolest we get this week is on Sunday, likely around 20 degrees, which is around seasonal, but it's pretty short-lived. And as we step in towards Monday of next week, we start to do this bit of a rebound. So we really do step into the final few weeks of September at or just above the seasonal mark. So for the fall activities that do begin this time of year, it is going to be beautiful. That chance of rain does come potentially overnight Wednesday, but to be honest, it's looking pretty good. Nathan, I'll send things back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Also tonight, heated moments on stage. A scuffle prompts the cancellation of the Jane's Addiction Tour days before their concert in Toronto. More on the fallout just ahead.
Staff at St. Michael's Hospital say artificial intelligence is helping to save lives.
In fact, a recent study shows their chart watch system has reduced deaths by more than 25%. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan explains.
Hey Shirley, so it looks like this patient has been identified as high risk by ChartWatch.
ChartWatch uses AI and deep systems learning to learn about patients in real time and flag those at highest risk.
What this system does is it helps alert physicians and bedside nurses on the patients who are at highest risk of deterioration or death within the next 72 hours.
The system was designed specifically with general internal medicine in mind, an area that receives 40% of St. Mike's admissions.
The General Internal Medicine Unit is located here at the new Peter Gilligan Tower, and it contains a total of 84 beds.
It's the unit where adults go when they have a medical condition that often maybe people have multiple overlapping medical conditions or common medical conditions that don't fit neatly into a single subspecialty box.
ChartWatch keeps track of more than 100 elements from a patient's medical history and current state.
It could be their vital signs may be abnormal, so their blood pressure might be a little lower or higher. Their blood work might be abnormal with regards to their hemoglobin might be low or high, or their white count might be elevated.
And when it detects a reason for alarm, it goes directly to the health team wherever they are in the building.
We'll get a notification on our phone, on the computer, and then directly to the nurses so that we can prioritize resources to keep the patient safe.
Recent figures show a drop in deaths compared to the period before ChartWatch was implemented.
What we found was that in the period after we deployed ChartWatch, there was a 26% reduction in unexpected deaths during that time period.
ChartWatch is now also used at St. Mike's Surgical Department as well as its sister hospital, St. Joseph's. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Workers at the Hospital for Sick Children rallied this afternoon to call on their employer to commit to an improved pension plan.
CTV's Beth McDonnell has more on their demands.
Worker power is what matters.
Passionate workers pushing for better pensions rallied outside SickKids Hospital, calling on their employer to step up and level the playing field.
It's tough, especially because one of the things that is brought up a lot in this hospital is staffing shortages. I've personally tried to recruit people to work here, and the number one answer I get, do you have HOOP yet?
HOOP is the Healthcare of Ontario pension plan, and they say SickKids is the only hospital that doesn't have it.
We will not stop fighting.
Leonore Foster has been at SickKids for 36 years and fears having to work part-time when she retires.
It's very discouraging, and it's discouraging because I know that SickKids can do better. I know that they're saying that they don't have the money to join HOOP. I know that they can.
Unions say the annual pension payments under the plan for a worker with a $45,000 income after 30 years is $25,500. But at SickKids, it's $17,500, an $8,000 difference. This is the third time workers have rallied since the spring, and while they say they've had meetings with SickKids, there's been no progress so far. As essential workers, they can't strike, but say the lack of funding risks leaving them living in poverty when they get older. Their message, too important to let go.
All we can do is push for unionization of other workers. Some of these unions are powerful, and those unions won't sign contracts without HOOP being included. And once HOOP is in, it will be in for all of us.
With the world-class care SickKids is known for, depending on it.
Without quality staff coming to SickKids, it's ultimately going to be the children that are going to lose out.
Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
In a statement to CTV News, the hospital says the current plan has been in place since 1955. A spokesperson said SickKids is actively exploring the cost of improving our current pension plan and the possibility of joining HOOP. The decision to join HOOP is complex, requires significant due diligence, and involves substantial financial value and benefit considerations.
The Canadian best-selling novel Life of Pi has sold more than 15 million copies and spawned an Academy-nominated film.
Now, the stage play is making its only Canadian stop in Toronto. CTV's Andrea Case has the story.
In 2001, the book The Life of Pi by Canadian Yann Martel was an international bestseller. Eventually, more than 15 million copies flew off bookshelves. This is the professional debut for Devesh Subhaskaran. He wasn't born when the book was released.
I am currently reading the book. When we started this job, was it a year and a half ago? I was reading it whilst I was in Pondicherry, and then I got the script, got to rehearsal, and realized I had all these lines to learn and a lot of physical things I had to do in the show, so that sort of became a priority.
But he has watched the film. Puppeteer Anthony Antunes has read the book.
Our story takes some of the real good juicy bits of the book and kind of puts a lens on it. So where it's set, it's a bit different in terms of the time period.
3 puppeteers embody the role of the tiger, the head, the heart, and Antunes is the hind puppeteer.
I became a puppeteer because I love to tell stories, I love to perform, but I wasn't always very good with my words, and I needed to find a physical outlet for that. And so physical theatre, puppetry kind of sang to me, and I loved it. And then I realized I could maybe make a living from that.
Each night, Subhaskaran gets to take on the tiger and more. Shipwrecked, he finds himself lost at sea in a large lifeboat with 4 animals, an orangutan, a zebra, hyena, and a Bengal tiger.
And it's all about the breath, the thoughts, the weight, and we have to listen to each other so deeply, and we have to know each other so well. So we have to kind of be in that character together. We have to breathe together, think together, move together, and react to our surroundings.
Life of Pi is on stage now at the CAA at Mervish Theatre until October 6th. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Tito Jackson, one of the brothers who made up the Jackson 5, has died. Tito was the third of 9 Jackson children, which include global superstars Michael and Janet. The family group, which was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997, produced several #1 hits in the 1970s, including ABC, I Want You Back, and I'll Be There. Tito Jackson was 70 years old.
Disappointing news for fans of the band Jane's Addiction. Their Toronto show planned for Wednesday has been canceled, along with the rest of the tour. The move comes after lead singer Perry Farrell attacked guitarist Dave Navarro on stage during a concert Friday night in Boston. A statement posted to their Instagram account says, the band have made the difficult decision to take some time away as a group. This is the first time the original members of the band have toured together since 2010. The alternative rock band rose to fame in the late 80s, early 90s, and first disbanded in 1991, but has continued over the years with other artists.
After the break, new parents and now new millionaires. A couple from northwestern Ontario wins $70 million, just days after welcoming a new baby.
It definitely does get a little crazy, especially at this intersection.
Updating our top stories, a warning for drivers as the city dramatically hikes the fines for blocking the box. Not clearing an intersection will now cost you $450, up from $90. And it's even higher in community safety zones. The move is meant to get traffic moving.
Early in the morning, I heard just a thump or some sort of a crash, some sort of a noise I couldn't quite recognize. I didn't really think much of it at the time, but I did hear some neighbors' dogs barking for a bit.
The province's Special Investigations Unit is now investigating after a fatal fall from the balcony of an Etobicoke high-rise this morning. A 21-year-old man is dead. York Regional Police were on scene executing a search warrant at the time the man went off the 11th floor balcony.
We think that the public has the right to know what this will accelerating this deal will really cost the taxpayers of Ontario.
And the province's financial accountability officer will now probe the financial numbers behind the government's deal to bring beer to corner stores more than a year ahead of schedule. The government has said it will cost taxpayers $225 million to stabilize the beer store during a period of transition.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you ever have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
As employers wrestle with whether to force workers back to the office, Amazon says they will have to stop working from home. Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there. Amazon.com CEO Andy Jassy says he's slashing management layers and he's ordering employees to return to the office 5 days a week beginning in January. Jassy told staff that being physically present makes, quote, collaborating, brainstorming and inventing simpler and more effective. Amazon stock is up about 30% in the past year, but company veterans complain that it has become harder to get things done, with endless deliberation, meetings and layers of approval. Jassy complained of, quote, pre-meetings for the decision meetings. Meanwhile, in Canada, the Globe and Mail notes that financial services firms, the federal government, and other employers are increasingly mandating that their staff come into the office a minimum number of days a week. But in many cases, the requirement is only 2 or 3 days. On the markets, the Canadian dollar ended at 73.61 US cents, up 1/5 cent. West Texas Intermediate oil was at $70.09, up $1.44. Western Canadian Select Oil changed hands at $53.80, down 41 cents. And the TSX Composite ended the day at a new record high close of 23,702.07, up just over 133 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Rules governing mortgage eligibility in Canada are being expanded as of December 15th. The price cap for insured mortgages will be increased from $1 million to $1.5 million. And the government's 30-year amortization will also change to include first-time purchasers buying any type of home, as well as anyone buying a newly built house. The Liberals say these moves are being made to help more Canadians purchase their first home.
A couple from Iroquois Falls are the province's latest multi-millionaires. Jennifer Stewart Flynn and Kyle Murray purchased the winning ticket for the $70 million jackpot from the August 20th Lotto Max draw. The couple had just returned home from Toronto after giving birth when they discovered they had won. Murray was at the Timmins airport picking up his mother, who had come to help with the baby, when he checked the ticket. The couple says they plan to purchase a plot of land with their winnings.
Just ahead, chipping in to support a great cause. Current Leafs, along with legends of the past and members of the Toronto Septors, link up to change the game.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Well, they're known for their play on the ice, but today some familiar faces from the Toronto Maple Leafs hit the links.
It was all for a good cause, raising money for the MLSE Foundation. CTV's Sean Leathong was there.
It's a day on the golf course for the Leafs and Legends Charity Golf Classic.
It's always a fun day. I think everybody looks forward to it and the start of another season for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
The goal is to raise money for the Maple Leafs Foundation. Players like William Nylander, Mitch Marner, and Morgan Riley, along with legends like Doug Gilmour and Wendell Clark, were at Rattlesnake Point Golf Course in Milton, and they were trying their hand at hitting a 72-foot putt. But the only one actually to hit the shot, legend Rick Vive.
Today we're going to raise more than $500,000, hopefully to go up to maybe $750,000.
Groups of 4 pay for the chance to tee off with players like Austin Matthews as a way to help raise money.
And we're also trying to change the face of hockey. So really leaning into diversity with our Hockey Coaches Education Program, where we're giving youth and young folks of color the opportunity to get their coaching education, and then we work with them to get employed, so it doesn't stop there.
Among the players, PWHL's Toronto Septors joined the Leafs on the course.
I'm from Toronto, so being here with everyone and just celebrating hockey, I think it's really special, the game of golf.
How's your game?
We'll see. This summer I golfed a decent amount, but it's kind of hit or miss, you know?
And while golf was the main event, this was also a first chance to see some new Leafs players who came over this summer, like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who won a Stanley Cup with Florida last season, bringing that experience to Toronto.
Kind of let the guys see how hard you work every single day, or how hard it is to win a cup.
Started training down there a couple weeks ago, so just getting used to the traffic and trying to find a schedule that works.
No, we're just all looking forward to getting to the real work and then get playing.
But while today may feel like summer, the real work starts for these players in just a couple of days when they report for training camp. Sean Leithong, CTV News.
Wow, can you imagine playing golf today? Just gorgeous. It was so picturesque.
It's that weird time of year where you have those winter type activities beginning and those fall type activities beginning, but it's still 28 degrees, feeling into the 30s. But you know what? It's a nice transition. You can play golf and then go and play some hockey if you're playing indoors. As we head in towards the next few days, it really does stay beautiful, and we're not changing much as we head in towards the end of the week. The only real difference is we see some cloud cover midweek, and then we start to dip a little closer to seasonal by Sunday, but overall, it's just super nice. We're looking at a really clear evening ahead of us. Beautiful if you have any outdoor plans tonight. Temperature-wise, we're still holding on in the mid-20s, feeling into the upper 20s here in the city, and they're not losing much of that heat. Heading to school tomorrow for the kiddos, it's another really warm one. Extra water, maybe a few extra snacks, probably a good idea because it's going to be a toasty one. Stepping in towards the middle of the week, a little cloud cover, but overall, I'll take it.
Yes, Sari. Thank you so much, Jess. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina at 11 tonight for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jess Smith and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.